Welcome to Sunday Night Sports News. The news that happens every month, and hopefully this is probably just for 1 year. That's all I'm just doing. This is just for a 1 year plan, see how it goes. But news that are happening from April 20th all the way to today, which is April 26th, 2026. We have some NFL drafts that had happened throughout the 3 days. Updates around the NBA and NHL playoffs, plus college football and basketball news. So let's talk about the draft. So the draft has finally complete, and now we have to talk who's the winners and losers, shall we? So we'll start with the losers. I only got 3 teams, and these are, in my opinion, and not what the people are saying. Like, the people are thinking the Panthers got the loser just because they got an offensive tackle. Please don't worry about that. They got a B plus. They got a good draft, but it's not like a plus draft. It was more of a B plus for them. So losers, I listed the 49ers, the Jaguars, and the Vikings. Now the 49ers, if they were in the first round, they maybe would have drafted an offensive tackle to replace Trent Williams. They did not. They went out and started day 2 with a wide receiver from Ole Miss. Is that much that they need, really? Another wide receiver in their room? And plus, they got Brandon Aiyuk, in which I don't know what they're going to deal with it. I don't know. I don't know. And they also just lost D. Winters, who is now with the Cowboys, which I'll get this out of the way. The Cowboys acquired 49ers linebacker D. Winters. So the 49ers, not only they lose a young, talented linebacker, they didn't even came and replace him. So we'll see what they do for the 49ers. And Jacksonville's another loser because, yes, they give up too many picks to get up last year to get Travis Hunter. This year they didn't do too much, and I've seen okay, but C plus, C minus. They didn't do well in this year's draft just because they give up too many picks from last year to get Travis Hunter. Again, this Jaguars team, there's still questions. Who is going to replace Travis Etienne? Is this Jaguars team going to be the same team as from last year? Is there going to be an up and down year for the Jaguars? And then I got the Vikings. Now you might be thinking, the Vikings are a loser? Are you crazy? Let me tell you why they're a loser. They did not get the best safety in this year's draft, and they went for a defensive tackle, Caleb Banks. What are we? What? And yeah, they don't have a GM, so I don't know what's going on. And the Vikings, yes, they drafted a defensive tackle, but if they were to draft a safety, let's say Emmanuel McNeil-Ward, which he ended it in the Cleveland Browns in day 2, that would have been their pick. But no, they went out and get Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida. Yes, the reason why is Javon Hargrave left to go to Green Bay. Jonathan Allen's now with the Bengals. They need that interior defensive tackle replacement, and that is Caleb Banks. But again, the main question is going to be, can this Vikings team get back on track to get into playoffs? If they cannot, all pressure is on not just J.J. McCarthy, but for Kevin O'Connell and his coaching staff. So then here are the winners of this year's draft. And these are my opinions. The Cowboys, the Jets, the Browns, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Giants. The Cowboys were the best team in this year's draft to have their best. They went out and get Caleb Banks, or Caleb Downs, sorry. And then they traded down with the Eagles to get Malachi Lawrence, which, again, they need more than just one edge rusher, a ton of defensive needs. And then day 2, they went and they acquired D. Winters into their linebacker room. So the Cowboys, real interesting at their defense. The question is going to be, can that defense step up for the Cowboys to get back to the playoffs for 2026? Then you got the Jets, which pretty surprised. The Jets surprised me. They went from David Bailey, to then going with a big surprise was Kenyon Sadiq. Then they traded up back in the first round to get Amari Cooper Jr. to fill their wide receiver room. And then I look at the rest and go, day 3, they went out and get quarterback Kate Klutnick from Clemson. So probably a backup, future backup for the Jets, but maybe there's a chance he could be a starter for the Jets team. Depends on how Geno Smith goes. Now the question is, can this Jets team get over the hump? And if they can, 7-win team for me, and that would be an improving season from last year. But I'm only concerned is the head coach. Can Aaron Glenn keep his job safe? We'll see what happens. Then you got the Browns, in which they did great. They went to get Spencer Fano, Casey Castellon. Then in day 2, they were crushing the draft. They went to get Denzel Boston and Emmanuel McNeil Warren. What a day for the Browns for day 1 and day 2. Now for day 3, they didn't do much, even though they drafted Taylor Greenwood, which is their 4th quarterback in their room. Yeah, but going to those 4 picks, I think Cleveland is going to be something special. Maybe 4 or 5 wins, I think. But it's going to come down to who is going to start at quarterback for Cleveland. Then you got the Chiefs, who made some big defensive needs. They went and get Mansour Delane, and then they went and get Peter Woods, a potential Chris Jones replacement if he goes to retirement. I think if with those 2 first rounders, this Chiefs defense is going to look really rare. Plus, they also, in day 2, they drafted R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. Guys, this Kansas City Chiefs is going back to the Super Bowl next year, this upcoming season. And then I got John Harbaugh and the Giants. Yes, this is probably one of those, they could be a loser, they could be a winner. But look at their picks. They went out again, of course, Arvell Reese. They got Francis Maligonia to probably potential play guard or right tackle. And then day 2, they went out and go get Colton Hood, which that secondary needs to be really good. Because, yes, they did lose Cordell Flatt, who went to Tennessee. So bring in someone who has been really good at corner, and Colton Hood comes in and fill that hole. In other news, the Eagles have acquired Vikings pass rusher Jonathan Gannon, and they also gave him a 4-year, $100 million extension, which he is now off to the Eagles in a loaded defense with Vic Fangio calling the defense. We have some big news on day 2, in which the Cowboys and the Ravens will square off in the NFL's first inaugural game in Rio de Janeiro on September 27th. And this will be broadcast on CBS and Paramount Plus. That will be a week 3 game. I am going to have fun with that game. And also, during draft night, Raiders traded Tyreek Wilson, their 7th round pick from 2022, I believe, off to New Orleans. So I'm guessing he's going to be the Cam Jordan replacement. He'll be alongside Chase Young and Carl Granderson. So kind of like that fit for him. He's going to need some more time playing than just being on the benches. All right, let's go to some playoff news from both NBA and NHL. So we'll start in the NBA where the OKC Thunder and the Los Angeles Lakers are leading their series 3-0. The Timberwolves leading their series over the Nuggets 3-1. San Antonio got Wemby back today, and they beat Portland today. They're now ahead 3-1. Orlando, surprisingly, they went in the play-in as not going to get to the playoffs. They lose to Philly. They beat Charlotte, dominated. And then they beat Detroit. They're now leading the series 2-1. Toronto just today beat Cleveland. They tied the series at 2 apiece, 2-2. New York tied their series yesterday with a 2-2 series. They're now tied. Just currently, as of now, Boston is beating Philadelphia. If they win against Philly, they will be ahead 3-1. Let's go to NHL. We have two teams that are moving on to the next round of the NHL playoffs, and that is Colorado and Carolina. They're both moving on to the next round. Dallas and Minnesota are ending up a tie 2-2 the series. Utah is leading the series over Vegas 2-1. Anaheim Ducks are up 2-1 over Edmonton. Buffalo Sabres, what an incredible story. Missed in the playoffs in the decade, and now they're in the playoffs for the first time in a decade. And look at them now. They're ahead of Boston 3-1 in the series. Montreal is up in the series 2-1. As of now, they're playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning, so we'll see what happens in that game. And Philadelphia Flyers are up 3-1 over Sidney Crosby's Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, let's go to college football. As Auburn's transfer quarterback Ashton Daniels has been named as the Florida State starting quarterback. Bama's head coach Kalen DeBoer has agreed on a 7-year extension, so he'll be staying in Alabama for 7 years. Louisville will sign Jeff Brom to an extension through 2033, and is reportedly worth $64.6 million deal. Now we get to college basketball, and we have some players that are declaring for the draft. So here are the names: BYU's AJ Dambonesta, who is a projected number 1 pick of this year's NBA draft. He has declared to go to the draft this year. Kansas star Duran Peterson also declared for the NBA draft. Arizona's very own KP and freshman Braden Burris both are declared for the draft. And then the biggest one, Duke's freshman player Cameron Boozer has been declared to the 2026 NBA draft. And I'm got to tell you, whoever gets that first pick, it's going to be a debate. And here's why this year is going to be a debate. Because you have two great athletes who are going to have a debate on who's number 1, who is not. So you have, of course, Cameron Boozer, really, really good player with the Duke Blue Devils. And you got AJ Dambonesta, who everyone had high expectations with him in BYU, and he could be a guy that can help BYU basketball program get back on the top. So that, again, it is going to be a debate of who's going to be number 1 for the 2026 NBA draft. And that's it for Sunday Night Sports News April edition. If you're not seeing my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more sports news.